taxi associations have distanced themselves from a planned national shutdown today, and that's as a message circulating on social media calls on the public to take a stand against rising food and fuel prices. Now, the SA National Taxi Council says its members won't take part in those demonstrations. Take a look.
There is no shutdown. Santaco is not part of any shutdown. We distance ourselves. We've been talking throughout the week, distancing ourselves from all the rumors that we hear about us being involved in any shutdown. Santaco has not organized any shutdown, nor spoken to anyone with regards to any shutdown. We assure workers and we call upon law enforcement to assist in making sure that our operators are safe on the road. Tomorrow, throughout the day, we will be operating as normal.
Let's stay with that interview. Santaco says its leadership is currently in talks with government to explore avenues to address fuel prices.
We know what to do, and we know how to address our frustrations, and we know which doors to knock at, and we know if we are to take any action, how to go about, because there are procedures and protocols to be followed prior to doing that. We will not just shut down without having exhausted the necessary channels in an event that is necessary. At this point, there is no necessity for any shutdown because our president, Mr. Tsebe, and his committee are still busy with government looking at avenues on how to address the issue of fuel increase and the levies and so on.
Let's stay with that story and bring in the National Taxi Alliance, which will also, as we understand it, not take part in the shutdown today. We're joined by its spokesperson, Theo Malele, in studio this morning. Theo, thanks very much for coming in. Now, the National Taxi Alliance has previously, in its negotiations with government, said that if a deadlock is reached, a national shutdown will be implemented. But having said that, you're not part of today's operations.
Well, good morning. Thanks for having us. No, we certainly are not part of these activities today. We don't even know who these people are. Neither have, anybody, confronted us, in an effort of trying to, get us to participate with them. We're not part of any of those. As we have put it across, we are actually internalizing this. We are giving a dialogue, an opportunity with government. Only when that fails will we reconvene, relook at what are possible, ways and means of actually exerting the necessary pressure for our demands, to be acceded to. And obviously, we will talk to like-minded organizations, civil society, and organized labor for us to be able to achieve this objective.
It's very interesting that you say you've not even been approached by any organization, because that's one of the big questions today. Who is behind this call for a national shutdown? Given the threat of violence, the SAPS has said that its national joint operations is on high alert in the event that there is any violence today. Are you also worried about the safety of your operators and your passengers?
Well, of course we are. We are, because to us today it's business as usual, and we wouldn't expect anybody to, disturb us in going about our economic activities. Neither would we allow, our commuting masses also to be, disturbed. We cannot afford, or rather allow anarchy in the country. So if there are disputes, dialogue is always there. Even this country was actually got its democratization process on course through dialogue. So why can't we exhaust that first before we embark on any other activity?
What steps are you taking to ensure that the safety of your own operation?
Well, obviously we have our marshals on high alert, and so is every taxi operator and our drivers, and would like to also urge our community masses to be on full alert. And as and when they experience, these threats of violence, they should report them to the, relevant authorities for them to curb this.
So let's talk about the reason behind this call for a shutdown. As a result of rising fuel costs, the rising cost of food, in general, the rising cost of living in our country. Is that translating as yet into increasing your fares?
Of course it does. Of course it does, because if you look at, the rent the rent, value of, this impact. A fuel-propelled vehicle would actually yield 2 kilometers out of a single liter of fuel, also depending on the capacity of the engine.
Yeah.
So the smaller the engine, the more mileage you would get. And a diesel-propelled vehicle obviously would, carry you even much further. So in terms of rents and cents, you basically are going to be expected to fork out on a petrol-propelled vehicle around 6.6 plus per month. And with the diesel vehicle, it will be slightly less than 3,000, because with diesel, it actually stretches your rent even further. So, yeah, this also would bring in an increase on, spares and the general maintenance of vehicles. It further squeezes our margin to an extent that even our livelihoods have been threatened. And so would be the livelihoods of the drivers, because you would expect that revenue streams will also, come slightly down, as you would notice that you no longer have more people traveling to malls because of, these expenses. And you only have people that are traveling to work and, important economic activities.
Just necessary travel.
Just necessary travel. So there is no longer leisure traveling, because it is just not affordable.
Yeah. So what form does your discussion take with government? How do you go about, reaching the ear of government insofar as cushioning the impact of this rising cost of living?
Well, obviously, during the deliberations, we would also put to the table what we think would be a solution at this juncture, which is the relaxation of, the taxes on fuel and, the levies on fuel. If those can be, removed. And surely we do understand that these levies have a purpose. But even though some of them, they are not even properly accounted for, So if they could be moved away from, the fuel price structure and, placed elsewhere, maybe in the licensing of vehicles or somewhere else, but not on fuel, because fuel affects all commodities, and we cannot afford that as a country.
Absolutely. Theo Malele, let me thank you for coming into studio this morning. Speaks for the National Taxi Alliance. We now have got confirmation from the NTA and from Santaco that they are not part of these calls for a national shutdown today. But it is still a story we're tracking for you this morning.